and give access only to former employees to that portal. And we can provide them with information that's of value to them in terms of news articles about what we're doing, kind of sneak peeks at where we're evolving our software product. Tour on Talent, we actually let them attend for free. That was a joke. You all attend for free, so. But things like that. And then the other source of value for them to check into the Alumni Center is the ability to network with their peers and the ability to feel valued. If we have a challenge with a certain piece of our software, and we look at our list of alumni and we know that this person worked on that piece of the software, we can ask that person. We can ask her, what did you do in this area? Why did you create that specific algorithm for that specific area? And we can gain insight into that. And they feel tremendously valued, even though they're no longer a member of Learn.com. And it's saved us cost in terms of time and effort. And we've gained really deep insight from their organizational knowledge that they took with them. So that's a tactic that we can take, and a reason why talent management can span beyond someone's tenure at your organization. So far we've talked about what talent management is, that holistic and strategic approach to the employment life cycle. We've drilled down into what the employment life cycle is, being that it spans from pre-hire through post-retire and all of the people activities that we do along that continuum. Do you have any questions about anything that we've gone over? Have you seen it really work well within an organization that focuses on all the different people processes and really tears down the walls between training, HR, and OD to make it one more holistic function? Has anyone ever seen that work well?
I think we're in the middle of that at Baptist Health, and I actually, in my current role, work specifically for the outpatient services division, and my role is talent management. So I own our talent development component, which is strategically, we do the full succession, 9-box, the whole smack, and then I'm the connection to the HR side, to the OD side, right, to close all of those gaps. And so we're right in the middle of that sort of evolution, and it is making a difference. I mean, we've seen our turnover, almost disappear. Not for the system. The system is a different story, the hospitals and the corporate functions, but in our division, we're down under 8%. In a healthcare organization, that's unheard of.
Yeah.
But that is because we do targeted hiring, where we don't hire if you don't fit our cultural model. And it's very clear the way we interview. It becomes really clear really quick if you're gonna cut it or not. And then we're very intentional about who is our talent and where do we funnel our resources for talent development. Right. And we have the things that are core. So we're getting there. We're not 100% there. There's still big opportunities, places where there are gaps, and it's like, oh, I needed to talk to that. I needed that person involved, and after the fact, we remember that. But
right,
it makes a difference, and it also makes a difference how I report directly to the CEO, so I have full strategic access and full strategic support, and it's a core competency for us to think talent, and that makes a huge difference, because if I were 2 or 3 layers down in the organization, I think I'd have a much harder time getting stuff done.
Now, given the definition that we've put forth, the holistic and strategic approach to the employment life cycle, does that align with your definition at Baptist?
I think we're getting there. I was looking at that. I'm not sure. I mean, there's the obviously pre-employment stuff. The reputation that Baptist Health has, serves us very well. Our hiring and onboarding processes are probably our weakest link. It takes forever to get hired at Baptist. Ask anybody who's been through the process. So I think we're getting there. And the linking of the separate functions, I think in our division, that's definitely happening. In the rest of the organization, there's a lot of transition happening in some of those core functions. So they're not quite there yet,
Right.
but it's getting there.
And how long have you been on that road?
This is the third year of our talent management cycle. I've been in the role for 6 months. Prior to my being in this role, the CEO ran it herself.
Okay.
She still spends probably 40% of her time on talent.
Wow.
At least. She meets one-on-one with employees, she meets one-on-one with leaders, she spends a lot of time on where's our next generation of leaders coming from, so.
It's been my experience in working with organizations, hundreds of organizations really, that once you purposely decide to employ talent management as opposed to separate silos of HR, training, and OD, once you purposely decide to go down that path, it's 3 to 5 years.
Yep.
Depending on the organization and the infrastructure that you already have in place. And it's also been my experience that organizations are infrastructure poor. Very few organizations have very specific processes around what we do in talent management, whether it's training, HR, or OD. Very few organizations have job descriptions that are not just this fluff that sits in a drawer, that really help to guide everyone's behavior. Very few organizations have goals that cascade from the top all the way down to the individual employee. So if you have those things, you're ahead of the curve in many ways. When we take a look at what are the different practices that make up talent management, I'm not going to go over every one of these practices because these are things that you probably already know. But what I do want to ask is there anything on this list that you've never seen before, or that you might have seen but you're not really sure what that is?
Michael, how are you defining career progression maps?
Great question. Career progression maps really show not the typical career ladder. Career ladder is that I start as a level 1, I progress to level 2, level 3, team lead, supervisor, manager, director, VP, something like that. We found that careers don't really work that way much anymore. Career progression maps show that within a position you can progress. So for example, if you are a call center customer service technician, you might progress from level 1 to level 2, level 3, but within the same job. So a career progression map would show what are the levels of that job and how do you progress. It doesn't mean that you change from one pay band to another. It doesn't mean that you get promoted when you go from one area to another. It's just progression within that job. That's one side of a career progression map. Career progression maps also show where skills overlap between jobs and how you can move laterally or up and down in the organization. So for example, if I'm an accountant and I'm processing, for example, accounts receivable, I might also be able to transition into accounts payable because it's a very similar skill set that's required for both jobs. So it will show that you can progress from this job over to another job laterally. It'll show where those skills overlap, sometimes between departments, in fact. For example, if there's some type of sales metrics position that's needed within the organization that gathers and disseminates sales metrics to the sales force, oftentimes the same people that track sales for the accounting side will have the skill set needed to transition into the sales department to do that type of a role, if that's their desire. And then it also shows if I want to move from the role I'm in to a role level up in the organization, what skills are needed for that specific position, skills and competencies needed for that position. So it really shows in a dynamic way, not in a linear way, kind of like in a web way, how positions interrelate. Other questions about things that are up here? Thanks, Matt. So if I'm not really getting a lot of feedback that there's a lot of new stuff up here, and this is the stuff that makes up talent management, then what's new about talent management? If all of our practices are the same, I mean, we've done selection since organizations had more than one person, right?